We've got some breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Zach Wilson, the Jets' top pick this past draft, expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks with a sprained PCL in his right knee. According to multiple reports, Wilson injured during the second quarter of the Jets' 41-point loss to the Patriots Sunday, did not return. The number 2 overall pick in this year's draft has started all 6 games for the Jets this season, throwing 4 touchdowns, 9 picks. That's tied for most in the NFL. Backup Mike White, who came in relief of Zach Wilson on Sunday, expected to take over in New York while Wilson is sidelined. All right, we've got team coverage coming up, but let's start with the fantasy impact of this. And I've got Dave Richard with me. Dave, what do you think? You shake your head a little bit here.
I don't think the Jets are going to make the playoffs this year, Tom.
Going out on a limb.
Yeah, it doesn't look so good. Look, honestly, they're saying that Zach Wilson's out 2 to 4 weeks. It should be 20 to 40 weeks. It's over for this year for the Jets. You're not going anywhere. I was watching this game with Pete Prisco in the green room yesterday. There is absolutely no way that Zach Wilson should be on the field behind that bad offensive line for the rest of the year. I know it might stunt his development a little bit, but he's getting mauled. It's not pretty. He's not getting better. And there's not many matchups left on the schedule where you can look and say, all right, this offensive line has a good chance to protect this number 1 overall pick, or number 1 pick for the Jets. He was number 2 overall. And let him develop into a great fantasy quarterback. It's over. Let him heal up. Let him rest. Let him learn the offense. Maybe if you want to, you have him come back late in the year. But goodness gracious, what happens if he comes back and he hurts his knee even more? Tommy, they can't do it. The Jets aren't going anywhere this year. It's Mike White time in New York.
All right, we've seen what Joe Burrow's been able to do. Joe Burrow got injured last year in his rookie season, off to a fantastic start. We're going to talk about Mike White in just a second. We'll also get to the running backs, but let's specifically focus on the pass catchers. You mentioned the Jets. They're not going to go to the postseason, but a lot of fantasy managers are hoping for a Jet or 2 to get them there. What do we think about guys like Corey Davis and company?
I'm thinking they've got to go on the fantasy bench for as long as Mike White's under center. They'll have some occasional good games. Crowder especially. You think about Mike White and how he tends to dink and dunk. That would help Jamison Crowder, although we didn't see that against the Patriots. But there is a long-standing track record of Jamison Crowder not playing well against the New England Patriots, so it wasn't that much of a surprise. Corey Davis is the one that worries me the most. I know he scored last week, but he's not going to get a ton of targets and catches and yards with the chance to score week in and week out with Mike White under center.
202 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks for Mike White in relief of Zach Wilson, a 5th-round pick out of Western Kentucky in 2018, had not taken an NFL snap until Sunday. What about the running backs? Michael Carter, depending on your format, PPR had returned double-digit returns, close to that on Sunday. What do you think about him?
You know, this might be the silver lining in the whole thing, is that Michael Carter really benefited from having Mike White under center. Coming into this game, Michael Carter had only 9 catches on the year. Leaving the game, 17 catches, all of them coming from Mike White. So Mike White, short area, dink and dunk passer, like I just said. Carter was the guy who was on the field catching those passes, obviously a career high for him, but he also played a season high / career high of 72% of the snaps. That's a really good sign for Michael Carter moving forward. I know Tevin Coleman didn't play in the game, and I don't think I care about Tevin Coleman playing in the game or not. Carter's the best running back for the Jets. It's still a brutal offensive line. Carter's rushing average proves that he's going to have a hard time running. But if he's going to start picking up a lot of targets from this guy, Mike White, then I'm going to love starting him in PPR and half PPR leagues as much as a number 2 fantasy running back moving forward. Yeah, there is some good things that are coming out of this because Zach Wilson really wasn't leaning on Michael Carter as a pass catcher. Zach Wilson likes to look downfield. He targets downfield. Mike White won't do that. He'll play like a scaredy cat, lots of short passes to Carter.
Lastly for you, this is a little bit more macro because it's DST or IDP, which people don't play as often, but just what stood out to you so far about the Jets' defense, which was supposed to be improved under a defensive guy in Robert Saleh from San Francisco?
Really? Yeah. What stood out to me? They're not improving.
I'm saying.
Yeah, they're definitely not improving, but I think a lot of it is a talent issue. They've also had a lot of bad luck. They added to their pass rush with Carl Lawson. He's not playing this year. The secondary is really beat up. I think people look at the Jets' defense and they want to start fantasy players on the other side. And I think it's going to be that way until Robert Saleh can prove that he can pick up talent, keep them healthy, and then scheme them up to be successful. Mac Jones just went to town on them. The Patriots scored 54 points on the Jets defense. What do I see from them, Tommy? I see fantasy opportunity from everybody that plays against them.
That means if you have a Bengal on your fantasy roster, you're starting every single Cincy player you can.
Maybe even Tyler Boyd, who's been an absolute disappointment.
Which has been tough. He's been better with one of the receivers out, but now you can do all three, perhaps.
I think I'm going to start Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase next week. What do you
maybe
think?
T. Higgins, Joe Mixon,
Maybe.
right?
Mixon?
Uzama? Uzama.
Yeah, am I going Joe Mixon or Michael Carter? You're just going to have to wait for my rankings to come out to see.
It'll be 5-2 Cincy, 1-5 New Yorker. Thanks to Dave Richard breaking it down on the Zach Wilson news out again 2 to 4 weeks with Mike White behind him. We talked about on fantasy football today, the HQ version, of course, noon Eastern, and then the podcast with host Adam Azier and company. Make sure you download and follow the guys today. We're going to take a 60-second break. When we come back, we've got senior NFL reporter Jonathan Jones on the other side. We continue to follow breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. The New York Jets will be without top pick Zach Wilson for about 2 to 4 weeks. Multiple reports coming out of the Jets camp saying it is a PCL sprain that he suffered in the second quarter in the blowout loss to New England. In the meantime, backup Mike White, 5th-round pick in 2018 out of Western Kentucky, will back up Zach Wilson as you take a look at the BYU Stars' numbers. Has participated in all their games since being drafted here. The 1-5 Jets host the 5-2 Bengals on CBS and Paramount Plus this weekend. All right, let's bring in Jonathan Jones, our senior NFL reporter, joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. What more can you tell us, and how does this obviously impact a team that's already struggling out the gate here, JJ?
Yeah, it's news that this team expected, going back to yesterday, kind of figuring it was going to be a minor knee incident, but one that was probably going to put him on the shelf, certainly for the next game. And unfortunately for the Jets, they face the Colts on Thursday Night Football right after that. So certainly he's going to be out for at least 2 games there, just based on the schedule, no matter what his healing process and recovery process is. But it's unfortunate, but if you have paid attention to the Jets really ever since the start of training camp, it's not a surprise that he is injured in a way based on pass protection. This offensive line was never meant to protect a rookie quarterback. I've never really understood why the Jets thought that they would get by this season with this sort of construction along the offensive line. Of course, they've had injuries, Mekhi Becton being the most notable injury there. But here you are, Zach Wilson, now having to hand the keys over in a lost season, yet another lost season for the Jets, to Mike White. And, the fact that it's Mike White and it's not a veteran quarterback in that room to help Zach Wilson along like it should have been throughout his entire tenure from even before he got to the Jets, but certainly the first day he walked through those doors, another failure by the Jets in my opinion. And so it's Mike White, and you can't really have very high expectations whatsoever for this Jets team.
All right, so let me follow up then with maybe what some fans are asking, whether this is a 2 to 4 week window. Some may say possibly more, given everything that you laid out. What do you think the plan should be once Zach Wilson is healthy? Got to get the reps in, would love some experience, but the way things are going, you got to keep him upright as well.
Yeah, I mean, you want for Zach Wilson to be 100% healthy before he returns. There's really no sense at all in having Zach Wilson go out there when he's not 100%. Then you look at the schedule that they have coming up. It's the Bengals, the Colts, as I mentioned, on Thursday Night Football, and then it's the Bills in Week 10 there on November 14th. You going to win that game? No, of course the Jets are not. And so I look at the rest of the schedule and I see it softening up right around Thanksgiving. They have the Dolphins, then the Texans, and then the Eagles. And so I'm not going to call them winnable games for the Jets, but as winnable as any other game that is remaining on the schedule for the Jets. So you want to make sure that he's 100%. He doesn't need to put on the cape and be Superman and go out there when his knee is not fully stabilized, when he's not feeling at his best. It's not worth it in this season. So I could certainly see him returning after that Bills game, because that Bills defense is obviously going to tee off on him. I don't think there's any doubt or any question about that. So they're going to roll with Mike White. I am not at all going to be surprised if they sign a veteran quarterback. I don't know who that. It would be maybe a Matt Moore, perhaps, who's a free agent. Maybe they would trade for someone, but this is not a team that needs to be giving up draft capital in order to acquire a veteran quarterback who's currently on another team. But it's hard for me to imagine that the Jets are going to be fine going with Mike White and only Mike White for these next couple of weeks.
All right, I got one more before I let you go here, JJ. Sort of the Robert Saleh and then defensive side of things, both in points and yardage, giving it up to the Patriots are season highs. He's a defensive guy, of course, coming over from San Francisco. What do we think about that side of the ball and what Robert Saleh has been able to do 6-7 games now into the season?
Yeah, it's a mess. The personnel is not there, and of course they've had plenty of injuries on that side and guys going in and out. I have liked what I've seen from the front, at least. John Pringle-Myers has been rushing the passer extremely well, and that's allowed some of the interior pass rushers to get that push in there, and so they've been working very well in concert with one another. But you look at that back seven, and it has been atrocious, and they were certainly exposed yesterday against the New England Patriots, and they will continue to be, certainly this upcoming week against the Bengals. If Carson Wentz continues to play as well as he has, probably in a week and a half from now against the Indianapolis Colts, and certainly against Josh Allen. I don't see anything changing for the Jets, and they're going to have to take a very long look in the mirror and figure out what their issues are. Of course, they are abundant, the issues are, but Robert Saleh is certainly not getting the defense he wants here in year one.
Appreciate you, JJ. Jonathan Jones joining us here with the very latest on CBS Sports HQ. Injuries have ravaged this New York Jets team, and the latest coming to their star rookie quarterback again. Multiple reports have Zach Wilson out 2 to 4 weeks, but as JJ alluded to, it's probably going to be definitely the 2 because of the game coming up this weekend and then a short week shortly thereafter against Indy following Cincinnati. The AFC West standings look like this. Now the Dolphins half game behind the Jets. However, their odds to win the division at 75-1, still much better than the 250-1 that New York is facing. Everyone, of course, chasing Buffalo. Josh Allen, Sean McDermott and company, the overwhelming odds-on favorite to win the AFC East so far right now at Caesars Sportsbook. We're going to take another break. Got more coming up with Ryan Wilson on the Jets, Zach Wilson and more coming up. Correct myself. We're done. Appreciate you. Thank you.